Welcome to the FI Newscast. I'm Susan Choi. In this episode, we are going to get into food and the future. Food tech, AI, automation, what does it all mean and where is it all going? But first, let's cover the top stories for this week. We start off with surprising news about the GDP. Latest numbers rose at a rate of 5.2% in the third quarter, the fastest we've seen in 2 years. Consumer spending came in a little lower than expected at 3.6%, but experts still consider this a positive outcome. Increases in both business investments and government spending contributed to the uptick with the gross domestic product. And we are seeing the same upward trend with fast food prices. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, pricing at quick service restaurants has gone up by 6.2% in the past year. That's almost 200% quicker than the average rate of inflation and higher than the pace of full service restaurant price increases. So it's probably not unusual to see a slowdown in customers for fast food as well. The industry saw a decline of customer traffic by 2.5% in October, on top of a 4.2% drop in September. Over in grocery, a new trend is emerging that satisfies the needs of busy customers. Prepared foods are the items that people seem to want more of these days in the supermarket. A survey by the International Dairy Deli Bakery Association found that more than 50% of shoppers prefer foods in the grab-and-go sections of stores. Examples include anything from salads to sushi, smoothies, rotisserie chickens, and beyond. Speed and convenience seem to be the key strategies here. Another survey by Market Force found that more than 70% of the consumers they questioned bought prepared food at least once over the span of 3 months. Over in protein, Tyson Foods Inc. is making an ambitious move in the name of higher sales. The poultry giant just opened a brand new fully cooked production plant in Virginia, which cost $300 million to build. The plant includes robotics, both in the packing and assembling lines. When it reaches full capacity, the new facility will produce about 4 million pounds of product a week. It's part of a big push for Tyson to innovate. The company has seen challenges in the past year, including the closing of 4 plants and a pattern of shaky earnings reports. But it seems intent on moving forward, especially in light of the earlier news that it was investing in the exploration of insect protein. And we've got it covered for you, Black Friday sales. It's been a whirlwind of ads, emails, promotions, and deal after deal of Black Friday and Cyber Monday savings, and the sales results are coming in. According to MasterCard Spending Pulse, Black Friday sales are up 2.5% from last year. But for a number of retailers that rely on Black Friday sales, the outcome wasn't as positive. So what can we conclude for sure from all the mixed data? That's why I want to bring in an expert for this. I want to welcome in Chris Campbell, our very own Senior Content Manager of the Food Institute. He's going to break down Black Friday for us, as well as other relevant topics in the food and beverage industry. Food tech in 2024, that's what I mentioned before. We will be covering shortly. But Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Susan. Really happy to be here and really excited to talk about a lot of these topics. So I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get right into it. Okay, Black Friday sales. Break this down for us. We've been seeing mixed results here. What are the insights that you can share right now?
So yeah, we're tracking this, on the daily right now in our daily newsletters, and all of our team members are taking a look at this. And I would say it's pretty complicated this year. There's a lot of noise around the holiday sales. So I think we can start with the positives. As you mentioned in the open, we saw a 2.5% lift in retail sales when compared to last year, with foot traffic rising too. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a CNBC article today that was talking about NRF projections that are about $966.6 billion projected for holiday spending this year. So that sounds good. But that same CNBC article also talked about doom spending, or spending despite economic and geopolitical concerns. And we also had a report, like you mentioned, the Bloomberg Second Measure piece that said that a cohort of about 40 companies that are really more reliant on Black Friday than other companies, their sales were down 4% during the period. So that's not exactly great news either. And I think, like I said, this situation is pretty complicated this year, at least anecdotally from what I'm seeing. Many retailers are offering lower discounts when they compare themselves to, the prior years. At the same time, we're also seeing these sales kind of extend before and after the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're seeing it in the weeks before and after. So we're seeing a longer period for these sales to actually last. So we still are going to have to take a look at this data as it comes in the coming weeks. But the one thing that really caught my eye is the increase in buy now, pay later services being used during this shopping period. According to Adobe Analytics, we saw that there were a record number of shoppers using this payment in the US on Cyber Monday, and they said that number was up 19% from 2022. And across the pond, 13.8% of total online sales in the UK between November 24th and November 27th were using that buy now, pay later service. So, what does this mean? I think we're going to have a better idea after we get into the new year, but it certainly seems that consumers are reacting to those cultural standards. They want to make sure they have gifts for the holidays despite inflation, but they're stretching themselves thin. So, I'm expecting we'll see maybe some drawback in Q1 of 2024. Like I said, still got some time to take a look at it, but it does seem that more and more consumers are putting themselves in a perilous financial position this year. So something we definitely want to keep an eye on as we move into 2024.
Definitely. I'm sure we will all at the Food Institute be keeping an eye on this as the holidays progress. All right. Thanks for those insights, Chris. Moving forward, let's cover an interesting webinar that you had helped host recently, Feeding the Future, implementing practical food tech innovations in 2024. What a topic, so relevant in these times. Your special guest was Waqas Mahmood of Markham Technology. It was definitely an insightful event. Can't wait to hear the insights that you have to share from that event. So Chris, first off, tell us, what was the biggest takeaway from this session?
Well, to start, I did want to thank Waqas for working with us and Markham's sponsorship of the webinar. I thought it was excellent. So many insights that we were able to pull from it. But I think one of the most fascinating ones was just really taking a look at the speed of innovation in this sector. So taking a look at it, ChatGPT-1, which everyone is probably familiar with at this point, that launched in 2018. And by the time ChatGPT-2 was out in 2019, the AI was utilizing 1.5 billion parameters. If you fast forward to November 2023, and there was the launch of ChatGPT 4 Turbo, that same AI is now using 1 trillion parameters when developing content. So we're taking a look at 9 to 10% increase here over 5 years in those parameters being used. And OpenAI is saying that the 5th iteration is going to be able to use audio and video inputs to develop content, and it's going to be outputting more natural, empathetic, and emotionally rich answers. So that's something that really caught my eye, something that's really, really going to, change how people are utilizing these technologies. And I think that's just one example. But if you take a look at how like Midjourney is changing for, images, how marketers are using that, or even Microsoft 365's Copilot system, all these generative AI programs are just growing at an astounding rate. And I think a lot of people probably are a little intimidated by how quickly this is moving. But my suggestion would be, if you're already thinking you're behind the 8 ball on this, it's time to put your foot in the water, because it is going to continue to move very quickly. And the longer you wait, the longer it's going to take for you to actually be able to use these in your system. So that was really the biggest takeaway I saw here, was how quickly these technologies are actually advancing.
Absolutely. Everything is just advancing so fast. Definitely agree with that point. Let's move on into something that I'm sure you found very interesting. I found very interesting. I know that you and Waqas had discussed two very relevant quotes by significant figures in the tech industry, in the economy in general. First, a quote from Elon Musk in a recent interview with the Prime Minister of the UK. "We are seeing the most disruptive force in history here regarding AI. There will come a point where no job is needed. You can have a job if you want one for personal satisfaction, but AI will do everything." Certainly a very provocative quote there. We also saw another interesting statement that you guys had discussed in the webinar by venture capitalist Vinod Khosla. "I believe AI will be able to do within 10 years 80% of the jobs that we know of today, and therefore drastically lower the cost for a host of things." That right there from venture capitalist Vinod Khosla speaking to the Wall Street Journal. Chris, what were your guys' thoughts on this? What was Waqas's insights on those two quotes? Certainly very interesting statements right there regarding AI.
So I think you actually said it. Provocative is probably the best way to explain these quotes. And I would agree. That's the word Waqas used. And I think Waqas really broke it down perfectly. There's definitely a learning curve when it comes to utilizing these technologies, especially in the mid-market area. Fortune 500 companies, the bigger players out in the market right now are the ones that are really playing with this right now. But when it comes into the mid-market, they're the ones that we were just talking about that are kind of putting their foot in the water still. And I thought his best advice there was just taking those quotes as they are and kind of staying slow and steady, which I think is great advice in life, but also especially here in business. You don't want to take it and kind of overreact, saying that some of these players are saying that this is going to be a type of technology that's going to take away everybody's job. And personally, I don't think that's how it's going to work either. One of the thought experiments we kind of did on the webinar itself was talking about going to a restaurant with a inexperienced sommelier and having that person being able to use an AI connected program basically to a point of sale system that would allow a waiter to come in and offer up either, a meal suggestion or a wine suggestion based on prior, purchase behavior from customers, either the same customer or similar customers. And even taking it a step further, the Food Institute was invited to IFMA President's Conference this year. We're able to talk to a lot of technology providers. We saw a presentation from a company named Olo. One of their best things that they are able to do on their technology platform is take customers who opt in and utilize a ton of different data based on their prior purchase habits and basically put together really effective sales pitches for a waiter. Basically, they'll be able to come in and say, hey, this person ordered this item the last time they were here. Here's the item that they ordered and some other correlated items that people that ordered the original item are able to, actually enjoy. And one of the things I really saw there too that was interesting was that it would even allow people, if they're celebrating an anniversary or a birthday, that data's in the system, they would be able to allow the waiter to come up and say without any prompting, happy anniversary. So it really can improve the customer experience in a restaurant. And that's just one example of how this technology can be utilized in combination with human workers and not a way to actually replace them. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we're going to see more of. It's not so much that the jobs are going to completely be erased by AI, but the functions are going to be enhanced by them. And one of the things we will see, this is not going to be uniform. There will be some jobs, obviously, that will probably be eliminated by AI. There will be some that are enhanced, and then new jobs will likely emerge as AI comes out. So a lot up in the air right there, but I do think one of the things that people need to keep in mind is that, AI might be a little scary. I know a lot of people take a look at science fiction from the past and say, hey, this is probably not going to a place we want it to go. But at the end of the day, like I said, I think this is going to be something that enhances human work in many ways. And at the end of the day, will probably even lead to more job creation as, more specialized roles come together.
Makes a lot of sense, even though it still remains that I think people definitely tend to go with their gut. The first reaction is thinking about, that sci-fi dystopian movie. There's been a lot of those out there. So Hunger Games, anyone? But anyway, let's go into issues that we're discussing at the webinar. Very relevant, issues of concern that companies need to be aware of. Those of, companies that they are embracing AI, they want to explore how AI can help their business. But what are some issues that they definitely, need to be vigilant about, Chris?
So this is a little tricky because the technology is still so new. There's not a lot of court cases really that we can look to for precedent, but I imagine a lot of food industry teams, especially those working in marketing or advertising, are probably fairly concerned with copyright infringement, and that could be with images or with actual just written word. Wakas noted that it's best to include your legal teams when using this material when you're putting it together. But I think one of the best practices here too is, like I said, having that human element. So being basically ensuring your team is keeping a close eye on these products. As an AI creates something, you're not going to just allow it to go straight to market. You need to make sure that you have a human being that's actually checking it and making sure it lines up with your brand ethos, etc. And another thing I think that's really important and kind of related is just authenticity. One of the major things I see with consumers is just this absolute desire for authentic experience, products, foods. I think a lot of people will look at Gen AI and say, obviously this is not authentic. This is being created by something that's not human. And luckily, it's the same solution, making sure that you have a human being integrated into the process, taking a look at what is actually being churned out by these AI programs, making sure it matches up with what your brand is supposed to be saying. And that's a great way to make sure that you don't go into a spot where you were either going into a legal issue or, like I said, kind of distilling down the authenticity of your brand and making sure that you are staying within the parameters of what you are trying to express to a consumer.
Makes a lot of sense. Always about the legal aspect. Got to make sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Chris, thanks so much for those insights regarding this fascinating webinar, Feeding the Future, Implementing Practical Food Tech Innovations in 2024, which can be replayed on our website, foodinstitute.com. If you are a member, right? This is member-only content. So you can check out how to become a member on foodinstitute.com. And I would be remiss if I did not mention, related to this very interesting topic, a masterclass that we at FI are bringing up. Chris, can you share more about that? There's a masterclass on AI.
Yes, so we're going to be hosting a generative AI summit in February with Systematic.ai founder Rory Flynn and also Tetra Marketing founder and CEO Philip Rivers to talk about the state of AI, how to best leverage programs like ChatGPT for unlimited content, and even hacking visual content with Midjourney. If anyone was checking it out, earlier this year we actually did a webinar with Rory, and I have to say I was blown away by what you're able to do with Midjourney when it comes to AI generated images. I'm not a graphic designer, so that stuff always blows me away. But just taking a look at what's possible, very, very interesting. We're still working out the dates, so make sure you keep an eye on all your favorite Food Institute channels. We'll definitely get the information to you when it is available. But really looking forward to this one, and I think a lot of companies in the food space could really benefit from taking a look at how these AI tools can be practically implemented within your already existing workflows. So definitely keep an eye on our social channels. We'll get all that information out to you, but really, really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. All right. Chris Campbell, Senior Content Manager, our very own for the Food Institute. Chris, you are the man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now let's take a look at what's ahead in the coming days. On December 5th, we'll see latest earnings for Dave & Buster's Entertainment, Inc. And on December 6th, ADP comes out with its November employment report. And don't forget, you can check out all the great content that we've done by clicking on this playlist. Till next time, I'm Susan Choi. Take care and have a great weekend.